7:14 right now. There are calls for accountability and action to snuff out corruption at the state capitol after some recent revelations. And yet at this point, there doesn't seem to be much movement on this. Civil Beat's Blaze Lovell is here to explain. So Blaze, maybe for context, we go back to 2021, which kind of sets the tone. So what happened then?
Right. So in early 2022, right, two lawmakers charged on bribery, J. Kaleni English and Ty Cullen. At that time, Ty Cullen had actually been working as a federal asset already, and this is the details that we have in the Civil Beat story that ran last week. And so Ty Cullen recorded conversations with this unnamed man who gave him $3,000 in January 2022. A few days later, he gave another unnamed lawmaker $35,000 that was supposed to be used for a campaign. There's a lot we still don't know about this case. We don't know who the lawmaker is or whether they're still in office. We don't know who the man is, and we don't know what the money's for. But what we do know is that now the revelations of this story are renewing calls from people inside the Capitol and outside for some change because they believe that the legislature has a corruption perception problem.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a second. But why has the investigation taken so long, and why don't we know the names of these people?
We know that the investigation is ongoing. That's what the U.S. Attorney's Office tells us. But we don't know exactly what its status is. One of the worries and concerns from outside is that, there's potential federal budget cuts coming down to the DOJ, and there's some worry that that might stall the case and that the public might never find out who these people are.
Yeah, we know that you have even sued the FBI for more information about that. We'll see what happens and how that all plays out. At the same time, you mentioned there was call for action, and there was a big showing of that. But at this point, what have you seen as far as actual steps taken?
So far, we haven't seen a lot. We reached out to the heads of both chambers, the House and the Senate. The House Speaker hasn't made any commitments. We weren't able to reach the Senate President. But people within their chambers are making calls for change, and a lot of good government advocates also want to see them take steps on actions, on bills currently in session that would sort of get special interest money out of politics, banning campaign contributions from contractors, expanding access to financing for people who want to run for office so that we can get different voices in there.
Yeah, and yet this was such a big campaign promise. I mean, not just here in Hawaii, but all across the nation. I mean, how concerning is it that at this point, given that there is evidence of this, that we haven't really seen anything?
Yeah, 3 years ago, the legislature convened this commission that would sort of beef up transparency and accountability in government. A lot of the most meaningful corrective measures, people say, have been left on the cutting room floor and they haven't passed. And so they're hoping that this session they at least take some steps to pass some of those recommendations. But there's a lot more that they want to see implemented, like term limits, different rules that would allow for more public participation in government at the legislature and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's a great article. You and Christina Jedro put it together. Also interesting to note, you mentioned that the infractions that happened, that set this into motion, happened during President Trump's first term. Since then, we've seen 2 different terms of office change, and yet we still haven't seen anything. So very interesting. Blaze, thanks.
Yeah, thanks,
by the way, you can read the full article on civilbeat.org or text 66866 to get their newsletter. We'll be right back.